What's up, guys? We're back with a full slate of MLB action here on Sunday, May 5th. Solid winning day there on Saturday, guys. Very happy with that one. We saw our biggest bet of the day on the Baltimore Orioles. That one came through. That was a big one. We saw the Phillies get a blowout win. Crazy offensive outburst from them and the Oakland A's, so both of those were right. We got the under in the Seattle-Houston game. That one came through. We saw Houston get absolutely shut out in that game, and Seattle scored 5 runs, which kind of a lot for them, but hey, we'll definitely take that win, put it on the board. Unfortunately, we did see the overhit in the White Sox Cardinals game, not what we were looking for, and the overhit in the Toronto-Washington game. That was definitely a bad beat, guys. The 9th run of the game to lose us that bet was scored in the 9th inning, so that was pretty unfortunate, but a 4-2 day, winning our biggest bet of the day, we'll definitely take that. Let's get back in here and find some wins on a full Sunday slate. First, do me a big favor and hit that like button. It's a great way to show some support for the channel and all the work we put in here every single day. If you're new, go ahead and subscribe. It's 100% free and can keep you from missing out on these picks. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports. Comment below with all the bets you're looking at today and we'll give you our best advice on all of them. We respond to absolutely every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. As always, our final picks will be in the pinned comment down below. Now let's get into our first game of the day, the Colorado Rockies going up against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Rockies took a 1-0 loss in game 2 of this series. The series is now tied at 1 game apiece. Neither one of these teams is having a great time right now, and the Rockies definitely not off to the start they would have hoped for, although this team did not have great projections heading into the year. They're only 8-25 right now. They're handing the ball in this one to Ryan Feltner. He's off to a 1-2 start with a 5.13 ERA, so nothing too special there. His last time out, he did look pretty good against the Miami Marlins. He went 8 innings, gave up 3 runs on 5 hits, and had 3 strikeouts, no walks, no home runs allowed, so not a terrible outing by any stretch, but he's had his rough spots this season for sure. He got dinged up by the San Diego Padres. He got dinged up by the Phillies in the start before that. In his first 2 starts of the year, he did look pretty good, but that was going against the Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays, so not teams that have really gotten off to a good start hitting the ball, so we'll take some of his numbers here with a little bit of a grain of salt, but in general, he hasn't looked bad lately, and definitely not in his last start. Going up here against the Rockies offense in general, obviously, guys, not looking too good. They're all the way down to 22nd in the majors in terms of on-base percentage, 24th in the majors in runs scored. They've only scored a grand total of 3 runs in this series so far, and they didn't exactly have a good offensive series in their series against the Marlins. They lost every single game. They did score 6 runs in one of those games, but yeah, just no positives really to report here for the Rockies offense. It's not looking great. We see Ryan McMahon leading the way for them with a .311 batting average and 5 home runs, but just not a lot of positives here to find for this team when they're hitting the ball, and really not a lot of positives to find for their pitching staff either. It's been a rough road so far for the Rockies. They're going to need to try and turn things around here, I guess, going up against the Pirates, who are also happening on some pretty hard times. They did win their last game 1-0. They snapped a 6-game losing streak there, so I'm sure they were very pumped about that, but man, 5-19 after the hot start this team got off to cannot feel great. They're handing the ball in this one to Bailey Falter, who's 2-2 with a 4.22 ERA. His last start against the Oakland A's did not look good. He gave up 5 earned runs and a home run over 5 innings of work. He had 5 strikeouts and no walks, but man, giving up 5 earned runs to the Oakland A's, not what you're looking for, even though they're playing a little bit better here lately. But in general, this season, he's been pretty good. That start against the A's was his worst start by far this season. The most runs he'd allowed in a start before that game was 2 against the New York Mets, so he's looked good this year just in general. I think we can feel pretty decent about him having the ball out there on the mound for the Pirates, and man, the Pirates bats, they just need to figure something out here because it has been absolutely very, very tough sledding here for them lately. I mean, got off to a hot start and then things have just tanked. They've fallen off a cliff here. They're all the way down to 24th in the majors in terms of runs scored, with only 120 runs overall. 18th in team on base percentage. We don't see anybody on the team really hitting the ball well right now. There's just not a lot of positives to report for this team. I mean, in their series before this one against the Rockies, the most runs they scored against the Oakland A's was 2. They scored 1, 2, and 0 runs in that series. This is just not a team that's hitting the ball very well right now. They got to figure something out, but it'll be interesting to see which way they go. It feels like we've got 2 pretty decent starters out here on the mound right now, assuming that Feltner can make a little bit of a bounce back from what happened to him in his last start. So looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Rockies are plus 130. The Pirates are minus 148. We don't really have a lot of faith in either one of these teams right now. Looking at the over-under, there's some 8.5s out there still and some 8s. guys, you're probably not super stoked to hear underplays from me, as we've had a little bit of a tough time with them lately, but there's still a ton of value in them. We're going to be looking at the under in this one for sure. Colorado is 18-15 to the under. The Pirates are 20-13-1 to the under this year. And with two decent starters out there in the mound and an over-under of 8.5, I think we see offense be at a premium here in this game. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays going on the road to take on the Washington Nationals. The Blue Jays come into this game fresh off of a Game 2 win. They won 6-3 in that one. Their one weird run they scored in the ninth inning cost us our over-under play, so that was pretty annoying. Toronto's only 16-18 on the season, so not feeling great. They can feel maybe optimistic here. They're activating Alex Manoah coming off of the IL here. It'll be interesting to see how he does in this game. It's going to be his first start of the season. Last year, he went 3-9 with a 5.87 ERA, so not exactly elite. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. We don't really know. I mean, he's a big right-hander. He's a young guy. It'll be interesting to see how he does coming off the IL. It's going to be his first start since August, obviously his first start of the year, so we'll just have to see how he does. A little bit of an unknown out there on the mound. Something we can start to feel like kind of, this is just their reality, is about the Toronto Blue Jays and their mediocre offense. They're 26th in the majors, guys, in terms of runs scored. That is not the hallmark of a good offense. They're 19th in on-base percentage. Like, this doesn't feel like a fluke that they're just not scoring runs. I just don't think this team is going to be very good offensively. Justin Turner's leading the way. He's only batting .294. Like, just not a bunch of positives out here right now for the Blue Jays offense, and they're going to probably have to score some runs in this matchup, even though they're going against the Washington Nationals, who only scored 3 runs in Game 2 of this series. They scored 9 runs in Game 1, though, so they probably don't feel terrible about that. They're 16-17 on the year, which for a team that came into this year with no expectations, probably doesn't feel terrible. They're handing the ball in this one to Mackenzie Gore, who's off to a 2-3 start with a 3.19 ERA, so not terrible at all. His last start was very reasonable, maybe not elite, but definitely reasonable. 2 earned runs over 5 innings against the Texas Rangers. He struck out 7 and walked 1, so that was good. His start before that against the Dodgers, obviously the best offensive team in baseball. He only gave up a single earned run in 6 innings. He did give up 7 hits, but that is not something to turn your nose up at in a start against the Dodgers. So in general, he's looked really good this season and really good lately, and we're expecting decent stuff from him here in this game, especially going up against a struggling offensive team. The Nationals in general hitting the ball have not been elite. I mean, they've shown some signs of life, and this team in general has been playing decent over their last 9 or 10 games, so we don't have a ton to nitpick about them, especially a team that came into this year with very low expectations. But 20th in the majors in runs scored, not great. 17th in on-base percentage, also not like an amazing number. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Looking at the numbers overall for this game, we see the Blue Jays are significant favorites. They're -117, so the odds makers here have some hope here in Manoah, but I find myself leaning more towards the Nationals +100 in this one. I think they find a way to get the job done here. I don't think Manoah is going to look amazing here right out of the gate, and the Nationals are due for a little bit of positive just hitting coming in, so maybe we'll see them score some runs. This isn't going to be a core play for me, guys, and I also don't love the over-under in this one. We see both teams showing slight trends towards the under, but we don't know what to expect from these starters necessarily. I mean, I do expect good things from Mackenzie Gore, don't get me wrong, but we don't know how Manoah is going to look. So go ahead and give me a little bit of a flyer here on the Nationals +100, but not going to be a core play for me. Moving right along here, guys, we got the Los Angeles Angels going on the road to take on the Cleveland Guardians. We saw the Angels take the 7-1 loss there in Game 2 of that series. They're down to 12-21 on the season, and yeah, things are not pointed in a positive direction whatsoever. This team is definitely going to miss Mike Trout, and they weren't going to be good with him. They're certainly going to be even worse without him. They're handing the ball in this one to Griffin Canning, who's off to a 1-3 start with a 7.45 ERA, so he's not having a great time. His last start was against the Phillies. He gave up 4 earned runs on 3 hits over 5 innings. He had 5 walks in that game and only 1 strikeout. Just not looking great. His start before that against the Orioles wasn't terrible, so I guess we'll cut him a little bit of slack. But yeah, in general, we're not really liking what we've seen from Canning so far this season, and very clearly we're not loving what we're seeing from the Angels offense right now without Mike Trout. Not looking good, guys. They're down to 18th in the majors in terms of runs scored, and those numbers are just getting worse and worse with every passing game. I mean, they did score 6 runs in Game 1 of this series, I guess, but they only scored 1, 6, and 1 runs over their last 3 games. Not a team that's swinging hot bats right now, and we don't have any reason to think those numbers are going to significantly improve. I think it's just going to get worse and worse for the Angels here for quite some time, maybe over the course of this whole season. They're going to need to score some runs going up against the Cleveland Guardians, who come into this game 21-12 on the season. They obviously just won their last game 7-1, and they're looking to get back on track here. They've had a little bit of a tough go of things. I mean, we've seen Quan miss some time. They've had some injuries for sure. They're going to be handing that ball in this game to Carlos Carrasco. He's off to a 1-2 start with a 6.59 ERA, so not what they're hoping to see from this veteran right-hander. His last time out, he got absolutely shelled by the Houston Astros. He gave up 8 earned runs in 4 innings in a game that his team almost managed to come back and try and win for him. They eventually lost in 10 innings, so whatever. But yeah, not a great look here for Carrasco, and the Cleveland offense hasn't looked great. Like I said, they've been dealing with some injuries, so once they get healthy, I think things will change a little bit there. But they did score 7 runs in the last game, so not going to really degrade their hitting too bad. They scored 7 runs in the last game. They maybe are on their way back up. They're 7th in the majors in runs scored, 11th in the majors in on-base percentage. That's a recipe for a team that's going to put up some runs for sure. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Angels are plus 115. The Guardians are minus 130. Guys, I don't know about this one. I tend to look actually towards the over potentially in this game. I mean, we have zero faith out here in Carlos Carrasco. Obviously, we have zero faith here in Griffin Canning. So go ahead and give me the over 8.5. We see both teams showing trends to the over, with Cleveland 18-13-2 to the over, the Angels 18-15 to the over. Will this make it as a pinned comment play though? I'm not super confident, but it's definitely got a chance in there. We hate both starters. It's not a huge number, and we think both offenses could potentially put up some runs. I mean, we'd be betting on the Angels offense, so that's my concern in this one. So we'll see if it ends up on there, but I tend to kind of doubt it. Next up, guys, we're looking at the New York Mets going on the road to take on the Tampa Bay Rays. The Mets come into this game. They've lost the first 2 games of this series, so not what they were hoping for. They, didn't look good there at the end of that Tampa Bay Ray game in Game 2, so things not looking up for the Mets. They're now below 500 at 16-17. They're handing the ball in this one to Luis Severino. He's 2-2 with a 2.31 ERA, and he was absolutely dealing his last time out against Chicago Cubs. 8 innings of work, only a single hit, a single earned run, 5 strikeouts and 2 walks. Yeah, that'll definitely play, guys. That was a dominant start from him, and they're hoping that they can see more of the same from him. But I mean, he's had other dominant starts this year for sure. The game before that, he did give up 3 earned runs to the Giants, but he's dominated the Pirates, the Royals, and the Reds this season. So obviously not a real murderer's row here of hitting opponents, but I don't think you can count the Tampa Bay Rays as a very great hitting team, so we're not too worried about that. The Mets hitting the ball hasn't been great. They did score 8 runs in Game 1 of this series, so they can feel good about that, but overall this season they've been strictly middle of the road, like an average type hitting team. They're 14th in runs scored, 17th in runs scored, 14th in on-base percentage, 18th in team batting average. We don't see anybody really hitting the cover off the ball to start things off, so not a great time right now. I mean, we'll have to see what they can do in this game and down the stretch, but they haven't been a team that you can really lock in to be scoring a bunch of runs. They'll need to score some runs here against the Tampa Bay Rays, who maybe seem like they're trying to right the ship a little bit. I mean, they're 16-18 on the year, so not what you're looking for, but a 2-game winning streak is something you can build off of. They're handing the ball in this game to Ryan Pepiot. He's off to a 3-2 start with a 3.12 ERA, so that's not bad. He pitched 6 shutout innings against the Milwaukee Brewers, one of the best offensive teams in baseball his last time out. Only 2 hits and 7 strikeouts over 6 innings. That'll definitely work, and he hasn't given up more than a single earned run in any of his last 3 starts, so Pepiot has been absolutely dealing out there. It seemed like maybe he solved some control issues in his last start, so if he's not walking anybody, he can make it really, really tough on those hitters out there. Looking at the Rays offense in general, it's come alive a little bit maybe in this series if you want to give them tons of credit for scoring 10 runs in that one game, but only 3 runs in their last game, and generally speaking this season they haven't been great on offense. 20th in the majors and on-base percentage isn't amazing. 19th in runs scored isn't amazing either. So I don't know, guys. I mean, how much faith can we really have in this offense? I think I have some, and it looks like the odds makers have some. They've got the Rays as minus 120 favorites, so that's a little bit of something. The Mets are plus 105 in this game. I mean, how much faith do we have in Severino? I think a good amount. How much faith do we have in Pepiot? I would say a very healthy amount of faith in him. He's been looking very good recently. So look at the numbers for this game in terms of the over-under. We see it's at 7.5, so a very low number, making the over-under a little bit unappealing. We see the Rays are an over team this year, and the Mets are pretty much a 50-50 over-under team. So this is a pretty tough game, guys. I tend to lean a little bit towards the Mets, I guess, to salvage a game in the series, but I'm not in love with the over-under, even with 2 good starters out there on the mound. I mean, it's only 7.5. I wouldn't hate taking a slight taste of the under in this game, but in general, this is going to be one that I'm going to be off of. I lean towards the Mets and under 7.5, but not going to be a game that I'm betting myself. Moving on down this slate, guys, we've got the Boston Red Sox going on the road to take on the Minnesota Twins. We've seen the Red Sox now lose 3 in a row, and the first 2 games of this series against the Twins, they have not looked good, scoring only 2 and 1 runs respectively. The Red Sox are 18 and 16 on the season. They're handing the ball in this one to Cooper Criswell, who's off to a dazzling start. The guy is 2 and 1 on the year with a 1.65 ERA. He shut down the San Francisco Giants his last time out. He hasn't given up a run over his last 10 innings, which encompasses his last 2 starts. So he's been looking very, very good. His only tough outing of the season was his first start of the year against the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll cut him some slack on that one. And just in general, Criswell has looked very, very good recently. The Red Sox offense, on the other hand, has not looked good. They've scored a grand total of 4 runs over their last 3 games. Not really what you're looking for. We've seen Tyler O'Neill's numbers drop off as you would have expected them to after his insanely hot start. This team is 8th in the majors in terms of on-base percentage, though. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. I mean, they've got a chance to start trending upward and start putting up some more runs, but 12th in runs scored, a number that's definitely headed down. 7th in slugging percentage, a number that I also think is headed down. Like, who on this squad is really going to start carrying them now that we're seeing that Tyler O'Neill isn't, the reincarnation of Barry Bonds? It's going to be interesting to see here. I mean, they're going to have to score some runs going up against the Twins, who are 19 and 13 on the year and have continued this insane winning streak. They've now won 12 straight games. They may never lose again, guys. It's been pretty wild out there. They're handing the ball in this one to Joe Ryan, who's 1 and 1 with a 3.38 ERA. He's coming off a very good start against the White Sox. I mean, it was against the White Sox, though, so let's not freak out too much. But 2 earned runs over 6 innings, that will always work. It doesn't matter who you're going up against. If you're going to give up 2 runs in 6 innings, you should be in pretty good shape. We haven't seen him face too many tough hitting teams this year, but do the Red Sox count as a tough hitting team, guys? I don't really think so. So we can look to him to have probably a decent start. And the Twins, they've been finding a way to score some runs lately. They're not an elite offensive team, I wouldn't say. They only scored 3 runs in their last game, but in their series against the White Sox, they were thriving offensively. So I think we can expect this squad to find a way to score some runs going up even against the Red Sox and one of their best starters. But in general, this game looks like kind of a tough spot to me. I mean, we've got 2 very good starters going up against each other, and I would say an elite starter there in Criswell. So looking at these numbers, they seem a little bit wonky. I mean, the Red Sox are plus 145. That doesn't seem like a terrible number with Criswell on the mound, obviously. That's more of an indictment of their offense. We see the Twins are minus 157, which makes sense given that they're the hottest team in the majors and that Joe Ryan has been pitching well. We've got an over-under of 8 or 7.5, so if you could find an 8 out there, I guess I wouldn't hate the under, but guys, this is another very tough game. The beginning of the slate has been a really, really tough to find great value. I tend to lean towards the Twins minus 157 just to keep their winning streak alive here, but that's a very small lean and based heavily on that winning streak. I mean, Criswell is a tough nut to crack. What do we really think he's going to be giving up in this one? I don't think it's going to be a ton, so we're looking at the Red Sox bullpen to give up a ton. I don't know if that's going to happen. Just kind of a tough spot in general. I don't think I'm going to be betting this game myself. You're forcing me. Go ahead and give me the Twins minus 157, and you can give me a touch of that under 8 if you wanted to go against the number like that. Next up on the docket, guys, we got the Seattle Mariners going on the road to take on the Houston Astros. The Mariners got the win there 5-0 in Game 2 of this series to even things up at 1 game apiece. They have to feel pretty good about that, and they're handing the ball here to Bryce Miller, who's just another one of their starters that's off to a fantastic beginning of the year. He's 3-2 with a 2.04 ERA. He's coming off a dominant performance against the Atlanta Braves, one of the better offensive teams in baseball. Before that, he looked good against the Texas Rangers. Before that, he looked great against the Cincinnati Reds. The guy has just been dealing out there this season. There's no way around it. He's looked just dominant. He had 10 strikeouts against the Atlanta Braves. Buddy is pitching well right now. The Mariners' offense in general has looked pretty terrible this season. Obviously, that's no secret, but they did score 5 runs in their last game, 3 in the game before that. So those are the kind of numbers that we can expect from this offense. And if they can keep putting those up, I think with their great starting pitching, they've got a decent chance to continue putting up some wins. They are only 26th in the majors with 114 runs scored, 26th in the majors in on-base percentage. So like we were saying, not an offensive team that we're scared of, but they've found a way to score some runs here. And going up against the Astros, who are only 12 and 21 on the season, they probably don't feel too bad in this matchup. The Astros are handing the ball here to Hunter Brown, who looking for his first positive outing of the season. Really, he's 0-4 with a 9.78 ERA. He gave up 6 earned runs his last time out in 5 1/3 innings against the Cleveland Guardians. So Just not a lot of positives to report here for the Astros, guys. I mean, they got shut out in their last game. Things just can't feel very good. This isn't a team that expected to be this bad this season. They're second in the majors in batting average, fifth in the majors in on-base percentage, and they just cannot score enough runs to outweigh what has been a pretty mediocre pitching staff, a mediocre bullpen. They've had some starters that have gotten off to a good start to the season, don't get me wrong, but yeah, just in general, not finding a way to win games right now. And the odds makers, they see Houston winning this game. They got Houston minus 120, which is a little bit surprising. We see the Mariners plus 105 in this one. We've got an over-under of a big number again of 8.5, so that's a little bit enticing. It's almost becoming a system play here just to take Seattle in the under with their dominant pitching and their lack of offense. Seattle is 24-7-2 to the under. We see Houston is 21-10-2 to the under. Guys, I know you don't love these underplays, but we are locking in the under in this one. We also like the Mariners plus 105 a good amount, but we're going to have 100% have the Seattle Houston under 8.5 in our pinned comment plays. Next up, guys, we have the Chicago White Sox going on the road to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. The White Sox actually got the 6-5 win there in a very controversial strike 3 call that looked pretty suspect to me. The White Sox are now 7-26 on the season. The series is tied at 1 game apiece. They're going to be handing the ball in this one to Garrett Crochet, who's 1-4 on the year with a 5.97 ERA, so not amazing. He was decent in his last start going up against the Twins. He gave up 2 runs over 5 innings of work. He did get touched up for a home run, though. He had 7 strikeouts and 1 walk, so not a terrible start for him. His standards have not been super high this season, but he's going up against a pretty bad offensive team, so maybe he's got a shot in this one. Looking at the White Sox offense, we're seeing the worst offense in the majors, guys. There's nothing really to talk about here. They are a terrible, terrible, no good offensive team. Last in the majors in runs scored, on-base percentage, last in basically every major statistical category. Nobody's off to a hot start for them. Nobody's hitting the ball well for them right now. Just no positives. Them scoring 6 innings in that game against the Cardinals actually feels like some kind of miracle to me. They're going to need to score some runs in this one, going up against the Cardinals here in Game 3. The Cardinals are only 15-18 on the season, and their offense also has not been looking very good. So, yeah, not a great start to the year for the Cardinals. Frustration's definitely building for that fan base. Kyle Gibson's getting the start in this one. He's 2-2 with a 3.79 ERA, so good, but not really dominant, I won't say. Although he was dominant in his last start against the Tigers. 4 hits, 7 innings, only a single earned run, a home run, 9 strikeouts and 2 walks. That will definitely work. If that's what they can get out of him on a consistent basis this season, that will definitely work. I mean, Kyle Gibson, supposed to be very good for the Cardinals this year. We're going to see here down the stretch. The Cardinals' bats continue to be pretty suspect. Them scoring 5 runs in Game 2 of this series also kind of feels like a miracle, not going to lie. I mean, we see Nolan Arenado not get off to the best start. He's coming on a little bit here now, though. We've seen Contreras kind of carry things at different times. This squad, though, just not putting it together. They're 28th in the majors in runs scored with 112, 25th in the majors in on-base percentage. Not a recipe to fill us with a lot of hope for this offense moving forward. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Cardinals as huge favorites. They're minus 180. That makes sense to me given the pitching matchup and that the White Sox are 2-14 when playing on the road this season. So, yeah, guys, if you want to just go ahead and try and grab a little bit of easy money there on the Cardinals minus 180, that makes sense to me. We've got an over-under in this game of 7.5. If you wanted to get on the under, that would also make sense. The Cardinals are a big under team. The White Sox have been kind of a 50-50 over-under team. We saw both of these teams hit way above expectation in Game 1, so that would kind of make sense. But I think I like the Cardinals minus 180 a lot better. I think they're going to win this game in comfortable fashion, and they're going to be very, very upset coming into this game with a lot of determination, kind of right the ship after feeling like they got robbed there in Game 2. Next on the docket, guys, we got the Milwaukee Brewers going on the road to take on the Chicago Cubs. The Brewers took the loss there in Game 2 of this series, 6-5. Very close one, though. Obviously, they're 20-12 on the season, and they're battling it out there with the Cubs for kind of the top spot right now in the NL Central, with everybody else kind of falling off here. It hasn't looked good there. The Brewers are hitting the ball in this one to Freddie Peralta, who is killing it to start the season. He's 3-0 with a 3.21 ERA, so that'll definitely work. He shut down the Tampa Bay Rays his last time out. I mean, maybe not quite shut down. 2 earned runs over 5 1/3. Still pretty good. He only gave up a single hit. It was a home run in that game. He had 7 strikeouts, so the guy looked pretty freaking good, not going to lie. The start before that against the Pirates was a little bit suspect, but before that, he shut down the Cardinals, shut down the Orioles, and shut down the Seattle Mariners. So, in general, he's looked very, very good to start the season. And the Milwaukee Brewers bats have been excellent. I mean, they're top 5 in every major hitting category. They've looked good so far in this series. They looked good in the series before this. It seems like they're rounding into form. We see William Contreras off to a good start. He's pounding the ball. He's still batting .336 on the season, so no negatives. I mean, they've scored 160 runs this season. Their team batting average is 4th. Their team on-base percentage is .337, second in the majors. Those are numbers that will definitely work. They're going to hope they can keep this gut rolling here going up against the Chicago Cubs, who won game 2. Kind of feels like a miracle. The Cubs are a bit banged up right now. They're handing the ball in this one to Javier Assad, who's off to a dazzling start. He's 2-0 with a 1.97 ERA. He dominated the New York Mets his last time out. 5 hits, only a single earned run over 5 innings of work. Before that, he was very good against the Houston Astros. Before that, he was very good against the Miami Marlins, and so on and so forth. The guy has just looked very good this season. He's a short right-hander, but he's built like a brick house. The guy can absolutely throw it. Growing up in Tijuana, Mexico, it seems like things are working out for him. The Cubs' offense in general hasn't looked amazing lately, but they did score 6 runs in game 2 of the series, so that probably feels pretty good. It could be a tall task for them in this one, though, going up against a very good opposing starter, so we'll have to see what they do. This is a game that could be affected by weather for sure. Looking at the numbers in this one, we see the Brewers are -120, the Cubs are +105, and we've got an over-under, guys, of only 6.5. Milwaukee on the road this season is an MLB best 13-5. We see the Cubs are an MLB best 11-4 at home, though, so those numbers don't really give us a whole ton to go on. Guys, in terms of the side in this one, I'm going to be looking at the Brewers -120. There's no real reason here to be betting against Peralta. I mean, Assad has looked good, but he hasn't exactly faced a murderer's row of hitting teams, so I think we'll see him come back to earth here a little bit, and we'll see the Brewers come out on top in this one. Looking at the over-under, we see that Milwaukee is 19-12-1, which is to the over, which is an MLB best number. The Cubs are slightly an under team, but we're not going to be too interested in this over-under, given this game could be impacted by weather and stuff like that. Just give me the Brewers -120 to win in this one. I think this has an actual shot to make it as a pinned comment play, as I think Assad is slightly overrated. Motoring right along, guys, we've got the Miami Marlins going on the road to take on the Oakland A's. We saw the A's get a crazy 20-4 win here in game 1. The Marlins giving up 20 runs. Might not be the last time we say that this season. I mean, they're not really poised for great things. They're only 9-26 on the year, obviously coming off of a terrible performance. They're hitting the ball in this one to Sixto Sanchez. He is going to be making his 3rd start of the season. His first 2 have not looked great. He got knocked around, only lasted 2 2/3 innings against the Atlanta Braves, and then gave up 5 earned runs on 7 hits over 4 innings against the Colorado Rockies. So not exactly the kind of teams that would inspire a lot of fear in you, and he's getting just like knocked around. Not the kind of performances that make you feel good. I mean, getting knocked around by the Braves isn't that bad, but getting knocked around by the Colorado Rockies, pretty embarrassing. He has not looked good here out of the gate, and neither has the Marlins offense. I mean, they're 28th in the majors in on-base percentage, guys. Just not looking fantastic. 25th in team batting average. Nobody's off to a great start. Only 121 runs scored this season. Not a team we're expecting positive things out of. And we are expecting positive things now all of a sudden out of the Oakland A's, who just scored 20 runs. They've suddenly won 6 games in a row. Like, where did this come from? I mean, I guess playing the slumping Pirates and the terrible Marlins will definitely help. But in general, they have to feel very good with how things are going. They're handing the ball in this one to Joe Boyle, who hasn't had a great time this season. He's 2-4 with a 6.08 ERA, but his last 2 starts have looked pretty respectable. He only lasted 3 innings against the Yankees and gave up 2 earned runs, so that's not great, obviously, but his last time out against the Pirates, 5 innings of work, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. He needs to figure out his control. That's been a definite concern. I mean, 4 walks in each of his last 3 games is not great, but man, going up against the Marlins, maybe you can get away with some stuff. We'll have to see, but the A's offense obviously coming off of a massive performance, but in general, they've been trending in a positive direction lately over this winning streak. They've looked very good. They haven't scored less than 3 runs during that streak. I mean, they've scored 7, 5, 5, 4, 3, and then 20. So, I mean, obviously we don't expect 20-run explosions to be the norm, but we do expect this team to continue to trend in kind of a positive direction offensively. Like, that's just what they're looking like right now, and they're going up against a very, very suspect opposing starter. So, guys, looking at the numbers for this game, we see the A's are only -121. That's definitely very appealing to me. Also, guys, there are over-unders out there of 7.5. I love the over in that one. Obviously, we expect some regression in terms of hitting with the team coming off of scoring 20 runs, but 7.5 is way too low for these 2 starters out there. So this is kind of a pick your own surprise party here. I like over 7.5 a lot. I also like the Oakland A's minus 121. We could possibly end up being on both of these in our pinned comment. We'll have to wait and see, but definitely if you wanted to take both of them, there's no problem with that. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Atlanta Braves taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. These two teams are currently playing right now. We see the Dodgers, they're up big. It's 10-2 in the bottom of the eighth with the Dodgers leading. So Braves not looking like they're in very good shape with this one. They can't feel very good about Johnson going on the IL with an elbow issue. It's been a terrible, terrible year for pitcher injuries this season, but the Braves not really feeling too hot right now. They're down to 20 and looking like it's going to be 20-11 on the season. Handing the ball in this one to Max Fried, who's off to a good start. We'll say he's 2-0 with a 4.02 ERA, coming off a dominant performance against the Seattle Mariners where they lost that game despite him giving up 0 runs in that start. It's actually the first loss that the Braves have taken this season with him on the mound, so that's probably a little bit disheartening given that he had great stuff out there for his second start in a row. I mean, he went a complete game against the Marlins, then 6 innings, giving up no hits against the Mariners. Not great teams, albeit, but that's dominant stuff out there. So we can expect decent stuff from him, I think, but he's going to be going up against the best team in the majors. The Braves offense in general, definitely cooling off, looking like they're only going to score 2 runs in this one. They're still showing great numbers across the board, but when you look at their recent performances, I mean, 3 runs in game 1 of the series, 5 runs, 2 runs, 1 run in their series against the Seattle Mariners. Not really the team that we saw just hitting the cover off the ball in the early going, so we have to approach their offensive production here with a little bit of caution. They're going up against the Dodgers, obviously, in this one, who are 21-13 to start the season. They're absolutely killing it right now. They're handing the ball in this game to James Paxton, who he's a veteran, and he's looked good here in the early goings. He's 3-0 with a 3.51 ERA. His last time out against the Diamondbacks didn't look super good. I mean, 4 earned runs over 5 innings. That's probably not like that bad, really, when you're pitching for the Dodgers. I mean, you can expect a lot of run support, and he definitely got it. They won that game 8-4, so that'll work. But he had 5 walks in that game, which is a pretty big concern, and he's battled some control issues this season, which is a little bit surprising given that he's a veteran pitcher. I mean, you don't expect to see 35-year-old guys going out there and walking 8 batters like he did against the Padres, so we'll just have to see what he does. But in general, this season we can feel decent about him. He's a big left-hander, and he's off to a good start to the year. The Dodgers offense is off to an insane start to the season, kind of what you would expect. They're first in the majors in every major statistical hitting category, except for slugging percentage, where they're second. Like, they're getting on base at a 354 clip. They're hitting 271 as a team. Mookie Betts is killing it. Like, everybody on the roster just seems like they're hitting the ball right now to start the season. This is a loaded roster, and they have to feel very good about where they're at right now. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Braves are minus 118. The Dodgers are actually plus 115, so the odds makers, not a lot of faith here in Paxton. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I mean, he's not coming off a great start, and Max Fried has been dominant lately, so I guess it makes sense. But the Dodgers offense is just so good, and the Braves offense isn't looking good right now. So, guys, if you're asking me, I actually don't hate under 9 that much in this game, but I also like the Dodgers plus 115 playing at home. The Dodgers are 10-7 at home, not a bad number. We see kind of a mixed bag in the trends for the over-under, but like I said, guys, I'll take the under 9, and I'll also take the Dodgers plus 115, but I'm not sure if either one of those plays make it into the pinned comment. Moving into the home stretch here, guys, we've got the Baltimore Orioles going on the road to take on the Cincinnati Reds in Game 3 of this series. Baltimore's going to be going for the sweep. They got the 2-1 win, a very narrow win, much more narrow than we would have expected there in Game 2. But hey, we got the win. We'll put that on the board. It was our biggest bet of the day, so however it wins, we will take it. They've been playing well recently. They've won 3 in a row, and they've won 5 of their last 6. They're up to 22-11 on the season, handing the ball in this game to Dean Kremer, who's off to a 2-2 start with a 4.19 ERA. He's coming off, I'll say, 2 good starts for sure. I mean, against the Angels, 2 earned runs on 3 hits over 5 1/3. He struck out 10 in that one. Against the Yankees, maybe a little bit sketch, but I mean, 7 innings, 2 runs allowed, like, that'll definitely work. He had 4 walks in that game, which is a little bit concerning, but he's pitching well coming into this game for sure. No complaints there. The Orioles have been a very good offensive team, but not so much in this series at the Reds. Like, playing at the Great American Ballpark, I definitely would have expected them to score more than 5 runs over their first 2 games of the series, but when you're winning games, there's no reason to complain. We see Gunnar Henderson still off to a very good start. This team's 3rd in the majors in runs scored, 1st in the majors in slugging percentage. On-base percentage is a little bit concerning, though. It's league average, so we'll have to see how this plays out heading into the middle of the season here, but we can feel good about the Reds, or good about the Orioles offense for sure. The Reds come into this game, they're struggling quite a bit. They're all the way down to 16-17 on the season. They're hoping handing the ball here to Nick Lodolo can turn things around. He's off to a 3-0 start with a 1.88 ERA, and they are 4-0 in games that he has started this season. His last time out against the San Diego Padres, he went 7 innings, gave only a single earned run, had 11 strikeouts. It's his second time in only 4 starts having double-digit strikeouts, so the guy has just been dominant this season. The problem right now for the Reds has been their offense, which has just been terrible, guys. No way around that. Not a team that's hitting the ball well. Elly De La Cruz has fallen off of a cliff. Kind of everybody, it feels like they've fallen off in a big way. 27th in the majors in on-base percentage, 28th in the majors in team batting average. We just can't trust this team to put up runs right now. There's no way around that. And I mean, even though they're trotting out an amazing starter, like how good do we feel like with that, like with their chances? You got Lodolo on the mound, and what are your odds of winning? That's got to be a tough feeling for Lodolo, especially going out there knowing he's got to be dominant to put his team just in a spot to have a chance. We see that the Reds are 9-9 at home. We see that the Orioles are 10-4 on the road. They're a very good road team. The Orioles are -104. The Reds are -110. This feels like a little bit of a tough spot, guys. We see both teams showing very slight trends to the over. We got an over-under number of 9 with 2 very good starters out there on the mound, which makes us at least think about the under a little bit. But I think I like the Orioles -104 in this game to finish off the sweep. I mean, they're playing pretty well right now, but their offense hasn't been great. I don't expect really anything out of the Reds offense, which is weird to say playing in the Great American Ballpark. But this is a little bit of a tough game. I'd say the Orioles are definitely my lean, but we're not going to be making a massive bet on the Orioles like we did yesterday. Next up, guys, we're looking at the San Diego Padres going on the road to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Padres are definitely very committed to doing everything they can to get themselves in good shape. We saw Arez become the first player to record 4 hits in his Padres debut, so looks like that trade is going to work out for San Diego. They've now won 4 games in a row. They scored 13 runs last night against the Arizona Diamondbacks. That'll definitely work. They're only 18-18 on the season, but they seem poised to maybe go on something of a run here. They're handing the ball in this one to Max Waldron, who's 1-3 with a 4.35 ERA to start the season. Coming off a very middle-of-the-road start against Cincinnati Reds, 4 runs in 6 innings, so not a disaster, but definitely not great. He gave up 6 hits in that game, 4 strikeouts and no walks, so the no walks thing is good for him, but man, laying it in there is kind of getting hit back at him, so we'll have to see what happens. He has had good starts this season, but like a great start against the Colorado Rockies, not exactly something I'm going to freak out about, but he did have a good start against the Dodgers earlier this year, so we'll see. It's been a mixed bag. If he has his best stuff, though, he's definitely got what it takes to win some games. The Padres offense looks like it's going to be amazing. They've scored 32 runs over their last 4 games combined. Yeah, that will definitely work. I mean, they're just hitting the cover off the ball. They're second in the majors in runs scored with 170 runs, 9th in on-base percentage, 6th in batting average, 9th in slugging percentage. This is a team that can hit the cover off the ball, and they have to feel pretty good about hitting the ball going up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team they've been dominating in this series. The Diamondbacks, 14-20 on the year, not headed in a good direction. They're handing the ball in this one to Ryan Nelson. He's off to a 1-2 start with a 4.60 ERA. He's coming off the 15-day DL, so he's been missing a little bit of time here. And while he did have good starts in the early goings, it wasn't really against elite teams. And his first 2 starts this season going against good hitting teams did not work out well. So it'll be interesting to see what we see from him, see how actually healthy he is in this game. But this right-hander, guys, I don't have a ton of faith in him right now. And I also don't have a ton of faith in the Diamondbacks offense. They got off to a crazy start, but has clearly cooled off a lot. They've scored a grand total of 2 runs over their last 3 games. Not a great trend at all. Looking at the numbers for this game, we see the Padres are somehow the underdogs in this one. They're plus 100. Guys, we are slamming it on the San Diego Padres in this game. This is going to be our biggest bet of the day. I'm very confident. They're in a good spot. You guys want to know what my biggest bet of the day is? This is it. Please don't put all your eggs in one basket, though. I tell them everybody in the comments not to do that. So I like the San Diego Padres plus 100 a lot in this one. Last but not least, guys, we got the San Francisco Giants going on the road to take on the Philadelphia Phillies here on Sunday Night Baseball. The Giants come into this game. They've lost the first 2 games of this series. They just lost 14-3 in Game 2. Thanks to the Phillies, we had them as one of our plays, one of our core plays, so we'll definitely take that win, put it on the board. Things not looking great for the Giants right now. They just had to put their catcher on the 7-day concussion IL, so that's not great. You never want to lose one of your main guys out there. That's just, yeah, that's not great. No, you don't want to see people taking head injuries either. That's a bad deal. But they're handing the ball in this one to Logan Webb. He's off to a good start to the year. He's 3-2 with a 2.98 ERA, but his last start was not a good one against the Boston Red Sox. 9 hits, 4 earned runs over only 3 2/3 innings. Yeah, that's not really been his norm this season. I mean, he dominated the Mets in his start before that, going 8 innings. He's been a workhorse in general, but maybe he's getting a little bit wore out here in the early goings because, man, against the Red Sox, he just did not have it. The Giants offense hasn't been good really all season long. They've been bottom third of the league in all the major categories. We haven't seen anybody get off to a good start for them. Just not a team that we can trust to put up a lot of runs right now. They're going to be going up against the Phillies, who have been showing they can really hit the ball. They've won 8 out of their last 9 games overall. They're up to 23-11 on the season. They're handing the ball in this one to Taijuan Walker, who's off to a 1-0 start with an 8.53 ERA. So that's got to feel pretty crazy for him to get the win when he's given up 6 earned runs on 8 hits and 6 1/3. It's only his second start of the year, so maybe his first start, a little bit of first start jitters or something like that, but definitely expected better things from him in that one. The Phillies offense, though, has just been killing the ball lately, so might not matter how well or how bad he pitches. They might be in a pretty good spot. Looking at the numbers for this one, we see the Giants are minus 115. The Phillies are plus 105 with an over-under of 7.5. Yeah, guys, I mean, this is kind of a tough one for me. I don't have a lot of faith here in Walker, and we don't know where Webb's going to be at in this one. In general, I would just take the Phillies as a solid home play. I mean, they're 11-6 at home. The Giants are 6-11 on the road. The over-under, we see both teams with slight trends towards the under, but we're not too interested in that. Go ahead and give me the Phillies plus 105 as a small lean, but I don't think we're going to be on this one in the pinned comments. That's all the games we have for today, guys. Hit the like button for good luck on all your bets and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any questions you have on today's slate. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description, check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.